Everyone wants to leave a legacy of positivity in the world around them. Whether you are a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, a nonprofit executive director, or even a soon-to-be entrepreneur, one fact is always true. The easiest and most effective way to catalyze change in the world around you is through commerce and through business. But how do you do it? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Changemakers Collective, a place where people can come and get educated and encouraged and empowered to be the impact agent in the world around them. Brought to you by Silverback Ventures, Steff Thomas and Scott Woods have over 50 years combined experience helping companies and owners amplify the voice and multiply the impact of purpose-driven businesses. Join us each week as we discuss what it means to live a life of purpose on purpose.
Yeah, welcome back to the Changemakers Collective. Today we're going to take a unique tour around starting a business from nothing.
Literally nothing.
Literally nothing, from a basic idea to opening the doors and collecting your first dollar. What does all that happen? What does it look like? How do I do all the things? We're also going to have a checklist that you can download at the end of the episode in the show notes. So don't forget to do that. That'll have a step-by-step in order of how you're supposed to do it. And you can just go straight down the line. And if you really get stuck, by all means, give us a shout and we will walk through the process with you. But the cool thing about this episode is Steff's husband is actually literally in the middle of starting a business. So tell us about his idea, tell us his name, how awesome he is, and what he's planning on doing.
He's the most awesome.
Clearly.
In the whole wide world. The king of my universe.
Yes.
Type thing. Yes. Okay. So Corey has a business called One Leg Over. So it is specifically for motorcycle enthusiasts, more specific, sports bikes.
Why did he start it?
He really couldn't find a t-shirt. It all started with a t-shirt. Couldn't find a t-shirt that was not brand specific, right? So although most people, I think this is true, who ride a motorcycle are very specific to that motorcycle, right? Harley like Harley, BMWs like BMW, Hayabusas like Hayabusa. I mean, it's a thing, right? So although that is true for him, he has a brand that he likes. He wants people to know that he's a motorcycle enthusiast if he's in the
Regardless
store.
Of the brand.
Right. So what happened was
I knew you were going to say that.
Several years ago.
Can't help yourself.
I can't help myself. Several years ago, he had this logo idea, right? It was Rod Life. And he thought about it, but he didn't really do anything about it. Then he went to purchase the domain to start that. And like sometime last year, somebody else had purchased the domain and it's not available for 3 years.
Okay, time out. Because this is a really important.
Right.
Did not used to be an important thing.
It is so important now.
It is so important now that when you're vetting names for your business, I know my first business, I had a name picked out. It was an acronym with my family's initials. It was super cool. It was catchy. And the domain was taken. And every iteration of the domain was taken. And I was like, okay, now what am I supposed to do?
So that's the thing, right? So he had the logo made, but didn't have ownership of the domain. So now he has a logo that, I mean, we can use the logo because he owns the logo, but he couldn't launch his business on Rod Life.
Yeah, so I had to have a totally different name.
Totally different name.
So when you're thinking about starting your business, there's a whole laundry list of things you have to, and again, we have that list for you.
Yes.
But I think this one's in particular is important because more entrepreneurs get frustrated with what do you mean? Like I saw a thing the other day that every 4 character and under domain, every combination of letters and numbers is taken.
Wow.
Every single one. 4 letters or less.
But it's not even the domain. It's also in your state, right? So as you register your business.
Yes. So you got the domain and you got the state registration.
Right.
That's correct. That's
So
correct.
before you spend money,
Yes.
can you call your business what you want to call it?
Yes.
And
Have a couple of options.
right.
So when you're sitting in front of your computer and you're looking for domains on GoDaddy, or you're looking for business registration on your Secretary of State's website, because that's where you look,
Right.
Secretary of State, go under business search, type in the name which you're thinking of. It'll pop up every other organization that has a similar name.
So here was another thing, right? He was like, "Hey, okay, I could pay somebody $500 to do all this for me." I was like, "Or
Yeah,
you could do
no.
it for what?
Free. Yeah.
Free,
Do
free, free, free,
not,
free."
do not, do not, do not, do not, do not pay somebody to register your business.
Yeah.
There is two things that cost. Registering your business with the state, usually in the state of North Carolina and South Carolina, it's under 150
Yeah.
bucks.
I think it's like 130.
Yeah. Registering your domain typically is 15 bucks a year. And then they usually charge you for 3
Right.
years up front,
Unless you want to
unless you want something
Right.
fancy.
So GoDaddy specifically, and only I'm not, we're not affiliated with GoDaddy. It just happened to be on GoDaddy. You can do 1 year or 3 years.
Yep.
And there's,
Typically it's cheaper per year if you go to 3 years, which
Yes.
just makes sense.
But it's still fairly
Yeah.
inexpensive. But then they also give you suggested,
Mhm.
hey, did you think about these? Or you may want to buy these as well.
Yes. I have mixed feelings about that because they will suggest if you buy a .com, they will suggest that you buy a .net and a .whatever.
Org and a
Yeah.
dot. Mhm.
I personally, again, I am a big proponent of minimum viable product.
Right.
Let's start as cheaply as possible to ensure that we can get this thing up and running. And then if we wanted to go back and buy all those other domains later on, great. But I'm saying to you, for the vast majority of businesses, you can start your business for under $1,000 all day long, every day.
Under 5, probably.
Yeah. I mean, some of it depends on if you're going with a product like
Mhm.
Corey's t-shirts, you're going to have a Shopify or some kind of
Right.
online portal. You're going to have to register with a sales tax ID and a couple other unique things. But if you're doing a service business and a nonprofit's a little bit different because you have
Right.
to fill out some additional paperwork with the IRS. But if you're doing a service business, you can get started for very inexpensive.
So he came up with a name. He found the, GoDaddy. And I said, hey, nobody researches Stephanie.net. You
Mhm.
reach, Stephanie.com.
Mhm.
So let's go with the one that most people do first. Second, he started to register and he was like, wait a minute, which LLC do I pick? So what did I do, Scott?
You called me and said, which LLC do I pick? So let's talk a little bit about that. So when you're starting a business, the easiest pathway forward is to start as a sole proprietor.
Mm-hmm.
When you register with the IRS to say, hey, I have a business and I'm going to be a sole proprietor, meaning it's just you use your social security number as your business tax ID. Totally nothing wrong with that, assuming you want your social security number all over the place.
Right, because it goes everywhere.
It does go everywhere. It's associated now with your business. So when you go get a business bank account, when you go get a business credit card, when you go get any other kind of professional services,
We're
they're
going to
going
come
to ask
back to
you.
professional services, so don't let us forget.
Yeah, they're going to ask you for your tax ID.
Mhm.
And if you're a sole proprietor, it's your social security number.
Right. And it's going to be on documents that you mail places.
Yes. So our advice to you, all of our listeners, is to not do that.
Right.
For $100, $130, way less than $200, you can register as a single member LLC. So Corey, being the sole owner of One Leg Over,
Mhm.
is going to register as a single member LLC. Now, that gives you a separate tax ID associated with the business, not associated with your social security number, and allows you to appear to be bigger and more professional than you may actually be.
Okay, so that was a whole conversation that we had, right? He was like, well, first of all, if I can do it on my social security number, why don't I do that? Well, for all the reasons that Scott just said. But if you are successful, you really only have 3 years on an IRS side to do that, right? They want you to
Yes.
register your business. So there's a whole other piece, and that's why we suggest people go to
Mhm.
Todd Green CPA so
Yes.
that
So you can learn about the tax
right.
benefits. And I think the other thing, LLC stands for Limited Liability Company.
Mhm.
And it's exactly what it sounds. Your liability is limited to your company's assets. So Corey makes a t-shirt, somebody's wearing it, it shreds, goes up into the guy's eyes, and he drives off the road and hits a chicken.
Right. Wow, please don't happen, but okay.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what made me think of that, but I was trying to be not as morbid as other things that could happen. The farmer sues and says, "Hey, you killed my chicken."
Right.
His liability is limited to the assets of One Leg Over.
Right.
It does not come to you or Corey personally or you as a family. That's a big deal.
It's a big deal. Okay. So you were talking about setting up stuff, right?
Mhm.
Do not start your business and use your personal checking account.
Oh, no, no, no,
There are many, 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 many banks
no.
that will allow you to open a no fees, especially if you're doing everything online,
Yep.
account. So don't mix the two.
Why? We'll talk about the mechanics in a second, but let's talk about the why.
Well, I would say the first one is it is a logistical nightmare when you're trying to
Agreed.
take away your what you made in your business versus your. Second of all, there is something about how you spend your money. So if you have your
Mhm.
estimated taxes in its own account, if you have, okay, I've got to buy X amount of goods in its own account, and it's all sitting over here, then you don't have to think, well,
How
can I
much of
buy
that is my
those?
business? Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I actually had somebody call me who's got a flower and a wedding planning business and said to me, "Hey, I'm getting ready to file my taxes. If I didn't make any money, do I still have to pay taxes?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, whatever profits I had, I just stuck in a savings account." And I said, "Well, that means you made money."
Right. Enough to put in a savings account.
Yes, good on you for having a separate savings account, but just because you didn't spend it on business stuff doesn't mean you didn't make it and you don't have to pay the taxes. So yeah, logistically, absolutely critical that you have a separate bank account. And again, to your point, there are a number of banks, even the big banks. You don't have to
Right.
go to a small community bank. The big banks will all do a small business checking. I think when I first started, I opened up I think it's the third largest bank in the country, and the minimum deposit was $50.
Yeah. 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 There's several like that.
If you don't have $50 to put into a business account, you don't have a business.
Right. Okay. So we set that up, right?
Mhm.
And then we started paying for him, not
Mhm.
we. There's no we. This is his business. Um, but now he has a outside of our personal account. He has where he's paid his state registration.
Mhm.
He has where he's paid for the logo. So now on a tax purposes, or when he starts to
Yeah,
file
come
taxes
on.
next year,
Make it easy.
like it's so easy. The
Make it
only thing
easy.
in there are business
Yeah.
expenses.
Yeah, I mean, we are both firm believers in keeping it simple.
Yes.
And part of that is because we've got a lot of stuff going on. But the other part of that is because it gives you visibility into what's actually happening.
Right.
If you have everything commingled, and I think we talked about this in the previous episode when we talked about financial literacy, how do you determine what was your kids taking money out to go get lunch versus you taking a client out for lunch at the same restaurant?
Or think about this. So in my household, we have entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and W-2 employees, right?
Yeah.
So if the entrepreneurs had mixed accounts, same thing. Okay,
Yeah, you have no idea.
right. And so you and I have a partnership, so we file
Mhm.
Silverback in one area, and the other entrepreneur avenues has to be filed completely
Yeah.
different. So it's very messy. So
Yeah.
I just that was a
So
thing.
yeah, I mean that's an important piece.
Mhm.
Pick your name judiciously. Make it mean something. Make it easy. My
Right.
first business was called Advocatus Consulting. I picked it because I couldn't find anything else that wasn't taken. Advocatus means come to the aid of as a friend and a helper.
Right.
Sounds great to me. Nobody knows how to spell it. Nobody knows how to spell it. You mean avocado, advocatus? What are you talking about? Nobody has any idea. So make it easy for people to remember.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're thinking about emailing you, they have an easy time.
Right.
And don't make your URL, your domain name so big that people have an opportunity to misspell.
Okay, so
it's
that's
silly
another
stuff
thing.
like that will make a huge difference.
It does. Okay, so the next thing I say to him is, hey, you've got one leg over, right? So are you going with Corey at onelegover.com? Or are you going with CT? Like, what does that look like? And
I'm
what
sure he
does
said,
that
I don't
matter?
care.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, so Scott and I have said before, for those that have a Gmail, no problem. It's no problem.
It is a problem.
It looks
Neither one of us will order anything or
I think
even
it's a
talk
scam.
to you as a business owner if you have a Gmail account.
Right.
And that's not a knock on your business. It's just poorly marketed.
Right. So I said, hey, if you want to legitimize yourself.
Yes. It's got to
use
be tied to the
GoDaddy
domain.
and
Yep.
right.
They will offer that as you check out.
Absolutely.
And it's not
pay the $3 more.
Yeah, I was going to say it is not a big charge.
Okay, so I said, hey, that's first.
Where a lot of Gmail people are going to be really mad at us.
I know we understand.
But no, I don't care.
Right.
Don't do that.
If
That's
you want to look
good.
professional,
yeah, it's not good.
You can forward your Gmail.
Oh yeah.
To your new email address. So first of all, okay, decide. I go by Steff, right? But of course, Kristen with Nava Studio said we may want to use Stephanie because Steff spelled different. So don't give people an opportunity to misspell your name because you're losing business when you do that. Make it simple.
Make it simple.
Right.
Yeah, make it simple. LLC, single member LLC is the best way to start. You can always upgrade or change to a partnership or an S corporation or a C corporation. All of those changes come with additional cost from preparation of taxes. So I'm a firm believer that don't make a huge wholesale change until you have to.
Right. As a new business, he's very excited. And I love that he's excited, right? So I said, okay, what are you doing now? And he said, well, okay, I have a new design on my logo.
Wait, hold on. So he had a design and then he trashed it.
Only because
it didn't. He couldn't get the domain name so the logo. This is important. The logo incorporated the name.
Yes.
So when you're creating a logo, if you haven't figured out the name and the name's taken, you've now wasted all that time and money.
Money. So there was money invested.
Think about how it's going to show up on clothing, on mugs, on pens, on your website, everywhere.
Okay, so don't get me wrong. When people say, well, my logo doesn't need to be on a website. Well, Scott and I have our logo on everything, right?
Yes.
Pens, notebooks.
Yes.
And
always be branded.
Right. And you have to pay attention to color because
our logo, which is kind of a tealish green and gray, is not going to look good on a Kelly green shirt.
It is not. So we have
a version of your logo that's monochromatic.
Right.
So anyway, he had to redesign the logo.
Right. Which is, cost some money.
Yep.
But he didn't, we weren't partnering on this because it seemed like a very easy task, right? So he lost a little bit of money because he didn't know who to ask. That's why we say partner with people that know.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you don't know, ask somebody, can you just give me
simple.
a referral?
Yeah, it's super simple. And I think business owners, one of the pitfalls that we see business owners fall into is that they think their idea is the greatest thing since the slicing of bread. And they don't want to tell anybody until it's launched because somebody's going to steal their idea.
We're not stealing your idea.
There is nothing new under the sun.
There you go.
So you have to have a unique value proposition of how you're going to deliver those t-shirts in this regard to the market. But creating a motorcycle themed t-shirt is nothing new.
Right.
So what makes it new? And I
So
think
that's cool,
going back to your point about asking somebody, we talk all the time about collaboration leading to innovation, leading to transformation.
Right.
Find people who are doing it well and ask them who they used.
Right.
Go to we have a website design partner. The first thing she says is, tell me 3 or 4 websites that you like.
Yes. Okay, so Scarlett's Web, who is fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Scarlett's Web is who you need to call if you need a website.
But
I
she
can
does
guarantee you she's going to call us and go, oh my gosh, my phone is ringing off the hook. You need to stop referring people to us. I have too much business.
more.
Call her anyway.
Right.
She does amazing work, hosting and design work. Yeah, absolutely spectacular.
So I can't do it,
No.
but I know somebody that can.
Well, and I think we do a good job of knowing where our expertise ends.
Right.
I'm an outstanding editor. I can tell you what I don't like, but I'm not creative enough to say, hey, you ought to tweak it this way, that way.
Right.
I'll be like,
Eh.
it's kind of ugly, but I don't really like this color or whatever the case may be. So finding channel partners, again, pick a name that's easy and not used before. Register as a single member LLC. Find people who are doing what you need done well.
Right. Let's back up just a little bit. Because I am a process-oriented person, some of the questions that I asked was, where'd you put all your passwords? Because a year from now, when you have to log in?
That's a
where'd you
whole
put that?
episode in and of itself, how to
Right.
organize your business. Yeah.
Right. So, when you log into GoDaddy, don't just pick, 1, 2,
Password
3,
1, 2,
1, 2,
3.
3. Right. Write it down. Write it down where not in your phone that if it gets lost or broken and it's not backed up
Yeah.
that you have lost it, right? So you got to write that stuff down, and you need to write down, are you going to remember in 11 months that you only paid for a 12-month and then all of a sudden you've lost your domain because there's somebody waiting for it? Now, if it's not your business, then let it go. But if this is your
That
business,
does happen quite a bit.
yeah. So that's a thing, right?
That does not mean you ought to pay for 10 years in advance.
No, it doesn't. But no, just be on top of it because it's yours. There's not a
Well, and I
a
think that's
waiting
another pitfall,
list.
right? I think that's another pitfall the business owners fall into. And this is even exacerbated on the nonprofit side because they're so passionate about what they're doing. They just want to go and they want to
Right.
go and they want to go and they want to go. They want to get to market. There's a whole line of business theory that says just be the first one to the market.
Well, okay, so I said, why now? Like, why the urgency now? And he said, well, I waited 4 years with a concept and just start. Okay, just start, but do it systematically.
Yes.
So I said,
Yes,
okay,
that's very good wisdom.
what problem are you trying
Yeah.
to solve? So Scott and I had a whole conversation about this prior to us doing the podcast. And I said, okay, what do you do with the people that it is a business? It's not a hobby, it is a business.
Yeah.
But,
Yep.
making a t-shirt's not solving a problem. So I
That's
said,
true.
okay, Corey, what are you trying to solve? And he said, well, I'm trying to get creativity out. And I said, that's a hobby.
That is a hobby.
But what he landed on, which is very true, he wants a motorcycle enthusiast to wear a shirt that people can identify he's an enthusiast, but he also wants to give a quality t-shirt that gives a man or woman an experience when they open the box. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool, but that's not really what he wants. What he wants to do is he wants to create a community of like-minded people who are also motorcycle enthusiasts that are sick and tired of buying crappy shirts.
That is
right. So
the
he wants to
quality
be
of the
able to
shirt was
share.
so important to him.
He wants to be able to share experience with like-minded people and be able, because one thing I do know about motorcycle enthusiasts is they all congregate in the same places
Right.
all the time. And they're talking about everything under the sun. And you're right. You have the
Right.
Indians and you have the Harleys, you have all those guys
Okay.
that are all have their own clique, for a lack of a better term. Well, now you're going to have a whole group of sport bike guys under the banner of One Leg Over that are now going to congregate together and be able to share experiences
Okay,
together.
so these are things that,
Yes.
as we sit down with
You
people,
really have to understand why you're
you
doing
do.
it.
One of the things in the sports bike world, and I don't ride sports bikes, I am the outsider looking in. So you know, if you get this T-shirt, then the experience also comes with, there may be a sticker inside
Mhm.
of it, right?
Mhm.
And the packaging. And he said, you know, it's so important to me that it's not my shirt, poor quality, in a jinky bag that, you know, just shows up in your mailbox. Like it will be a box with branded paper and the T-shirt,
It'll be a premium
right,
product,
with a
creating a
sticker.
premium experience for a community of people that are somewhat disregarded in the motorcycle world.
Absolutely.
Because I would, and again, this is a conversation that's well beyond motorcycles, right?
Right.
Everybody's got to put their gray matter to work here.
Right.
But if you're targeting a group that is underrepresented and creating a product or service that unites those folks, you can create a movement of change that's going to create a community of people that are uplifting each other. This is true in the motorcycle world. This is true in the nonprofit world where you're dealing with childhood cancer or whatever.
Whatever. Right. I mean, Samaritan's Feet started in a garage and now is
Got a
putting,
75,000 square foot building.
right, and are going all over the world,
Yes.
not the United States, the world.
Yes.
And statistically, they are pulling back feedback from countries that say, because of this service, kids have more self-esteem because they're going to
Yes.
school with
It's
shoes
a
on their feet.
byproduct of a simple gift,
Right.
right? The byproduct of this curated, very nicely high-end packaged product, whether it's a t-shirt or hat, whatever,
Whatever. Mhm.
is the person receiving it is going to feel some kind of way.
Right.
And it's going to be much more apt to talk about the organization,
Right.
talk about what the organization is doing. So our
Presentation
next
matters.
conversation is going to be with Corey to go, okay, you're going to make $1 zillion. What are you doing with it?
Right.
How are you
Oh,
going to impact those who happen to be, I don't know, injured in a motorcycle crash, and you're going to provide a scholarship fund for their children?
that's a big deal,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, so there's the packaging matters,
Right.
the experience matters. So when you're crafting your business, think about it holistically. Again, you don't have to be solving world peace, but if you are passionate about solving a problem, Corey's problem was not that he was getting crappy t-shirts. His problem was he was feeling undervalued as a customer because he was getting an inferior product and an inferior packaging and an inferior experience.
Well, and
He's
there's a
now wants to
social
create,
piece of
yeah,
it,
yeah.
right?
He wants to
So,
create a community of people that are excited about
right.
sport bikes that he wants to talk to.
Well, and he doesn't have to show up in a location with his helmet for someone to
Correct.
know that he is
Correct.
into sports bikes.
Yes. I mean, it's the same thing with Harley guys, right? You immediately see the eagle wherever it is on the bike, the clothing, whatever, doesn't matter. You immediately associate it with Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson makes like some ridiculous, like 4 or 5 times more money on the products than they do on the motorcycles.
Shut up. That's
You go into
interesting.
and my father-in-law used to ride a Harley Davidson. You go into the Harley Davidson stores, it's all merchandising.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
all
Well,
merchandising, and
same thing with BMW,
they're in
right?
every single
I don't know
airport.
if they make more money in that, but like when you walk in, like hats, socks,
Yeah,
shoes,
it's like a movement.
shoes. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
crazy. And so, you know, I said, okay, Corey, is that what you want? He said, well, I wouldn't mind to show up at a track day
Mhm.
where people are doing motorsports for the day and give people an experience or an understanding that, hey, you don't have to be branded out or logoed out. Now, people like logos and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that, but you can also just wear this.
Well, and I think taking Harley Davidson in the same context, Harley Davidson people, we call them Harley Davidson people,
Right.
not because of the motorcycle they drive, but because of the outfits they wear
Right.
and the logos they wear.
Well, there's always a Harley Davidson something.
So no
They've
matter
got their
where
wings
you
on something.
go, no matter where you go, if you walk into a restaurant and you have a Harley Davidson logo, or you walk into a restaurant and you're wearing camo with a United States flag on the arm, and some of you walk into somebody else, you're going to create a conversation. You're going to create community with
Right.
like-minded people who've had the same experience. It's the same thing for Corey's business.
Right. So, just to kind of recap, it's not a business just because you say it's a business.
That's true.
Right. You got to
That
do
is
some work
true.
around it.
Yes.
And we are going to make a checklist available.
Yep. We posted it. We created a checklist that's going to be a leave behind that you can get at the end of the show that will walk you through all the steps from a nonprofit and a for-profit of where to go, how to register, what to think about, what to talk about, the conversation you should have before you actually open the doors and say, hey, here I am.
Right. And Silverback Ventures are completely available.
Yeah, we love doing this kind of work for startups. We absolutely love being able to walk you through. And it's often somewhat painful because we've had a couple of conversations where we go, yeah, that's not a business.
It's not a business. But that doesn't mean you can't make it a business.
Correct. That's correct. It very much comes down to why, what prompted you to do it today.
Right. So it's better to have a conversation with us on the front end before you've lost a lot of money or before you haven't fully engaged what it needs to be a business than to spend a pile of money and then
if you call us after to unwind it, because I've done this for almost a decade, you call us to unwind it, it costs way more money than doing it right up front.
Right.
And ignorance is nothing to be ashamed of unless you stay there.
Right, because
you have got
I'm your
to
business
seek to
partner,
find.
and I called you and said, "Hey, this isn't my area, Scott.
Well,
what's
I'm
this look
calling
like?"
you if it has anything to do with HR stuff. I'm calling you.
Right.
I mean, again, being ignorant about a circumstance or a situation is not something to be ashamed of. Where the shame comes is if you choose not to get educated.
If you are starting a business, have a business, or have a friend that is talking about starting a business, shoot them our podcast. Also,
shoot them the checklist.
Shoot them the checklist and reach out to us.
Yeah, we're going to continue to live a life of purpose, on purpose, and we're going to continue to support people who want to do the same.
Absolutely.
So until next time, see you.
Thank you for listening to the Changemakers Collective. If you've enjoyed this episode, please help us grow our community by leaving us a review on Apple Podcast or rating us on Spotify.
You can also find our podcast on YouTube, so you can come and leave us a comment over there as well. If you want support growing your business and scaling your vision, visit us at silverbackventures.org or connect with us on LinkedIn.
Thanks again, and we'll see you on our next episode.